Your ass is grass.
Right.
Do you understand? And if
I'm done with this shit.
So,
tell me who
be
your
looking out for
parents
those
are.
cops.
All right, I will.
Get out of our
I'll be
neighborhood.
looking
You're
at those
supposed to be
cops.
sheltered in place. Go ahead, put me on social media. You're a little pup. Seriously? Seriously, I called the cops. I can't. What?
Okay. I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
Meanwhile, face coverings while out in public are now mandatory in Riverside County, and residents who don't comply could face a hefty fine. CBS 2's Candace Crone reports from Riverside with more on the new order.
The county is really stepping up its efforts to slow the spread of the coronavirus by fining people who leave their home without wearing a mask. And the fine for violating the order is $1,000 per day per violation.
Can you repeat what you just said, please?
Well, last Friday, I received a 7-page document that sort of told me that if I had an 86-year-old patient that had pneumonia but was never tested for COVID-19, but sometime after she came down with pneumonia, we learned that she had been exposed to her son who had no symptoms, but later on was identified with COVID-19, that it would be appropriate to diagnose on the death certificate COVID-19. Now, we've not done that. If someone has the pneumonia after and it's in the middle of a flu epidemic, and I don't have a test on influenza, I don't diagnose influenza on the death certificate. I will say this elderly patient died of pneumonia.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but my heart is sinking right now as you're telling me this. You're a doctor. Why in the world would they be sending you out information to fill out death certificates, whether the person's been diagnosed with COVID-19 or not, but then to say in the death certificate this person's death was caused by COVID-19? That does not sound right to me.
I went to the person in our office who does most of the death certificates over the last 10, 20 years, and I said, does this sound right? I had her look at the documents that I printed off, and she said, well, we've always been told that you always put down just facts. You don't put down any probabilities. You don't put any presumptions down. It's just what you know. And so this is concerning. And it actually gets to your point, Chris. When we start talking about the data that goes into the modeling, we have to ask ourselves a question. Are we being forthright? Are we sharing with the public? Minnesota, North Dakota, we don't need to be having it sugar-coated. We want to know what's going into your modeling.
So with that being said, why would they want to skew the number of deaths due to COVID-19?
Well, fear is a great way to control people. And fear is a great way to control people. And fear is a great way to control people. And I worry about that. I worry that sometimes we're so darn interested in just jazzing up the fear factor.
The only answer to the current health and economic disaster is to effectively suspend capitalism. Stop pretending like we're still living in free market, Wall Street rules America. We're not. And the best way to deal with this is to explicitly suspend those rules of capitalism and all the BS mythology that comes with it. Suspend all debt collection, foreclosures, evictions, credit report hits, all of it. The fairy tale about how we can pay it back if only we're good little boys and girls, that has been completely demolished. The healthcare system and other critical industries should be nationalized. We can't wait around hoping the free market will get its act together on gowns and masks and ventilators and other absolutely essential supplies. Hospitals are going to go bankrupt if the government doesn't effectively take them over. It's not even temporary socialism we need, but basically temporary communism. Citizens supported by the government. Major sections of the economy planned by the government. Because 30% unemployment isn't something you bootstrap and free market your way through. It's something that our nation can only survive without mass chaos and unrest by truly embracing collectivism from the bottom to the top.
You know, I have good news for you, Margaret, because there is a solution using available technology today to fix the economic part of this problem. The solution is universal testing. What you want is every single person to get tested every day, and then they would wear a badge like they would after they voted or something like that to show that they've been tested. This would immediately sort out who's been infected and who hasn't been infected. That would help the healthcare sector, but it would also help the economy because we could interact with each other with a lot of confidence.
Eventually, what we'll have to have is certificates of who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person, because you don't want people moving around the world where you'll have some countries that won't have it under control. Sadly, you want to completely block off the ability for those people to go there and come back and move around.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shots.
It's so important to get not just hundreds of millions, but literally billions of those vaccines, because this is a global problem. And although the US has got the most cases right now, as time goes on, the developing countries where isolation is more difficult and the health system is very weak, sadly, they're most likely to experience the most pain of all as this goes global. Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
They have to get their shots.
There are some good things happening. The work on a vaccine, although that probably will take 18 months, that's going full speed ahead. Our foundation is funding that. We're looking at getting vaccines to everyone in the world. So in the long run, we're looking at getting vaccines to everyone in the world. So in the long run, we're looking at getting vaccines to everyone in the world.
We must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement.
Last week, Dr. Michael Ryan, he's a leader at the World Health Organization, announced that in response to the spread of this virus, authorities may have to enter people's homes and remove family members, presumably by force.
In most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
We need to make sure that everybody continues to let us know where those folks are. If you've observed recurring violations of the Safer at Home order, please continue to let us know at coronavirus.lacity.org/business violation. You know the old expression about snitches? Well, in this case, snitches get rewards. We want to thank you for turning folks in and making sure we are all safe.
Your ass is grass.
Right.
Do you understand? And if
I'm
you
done with this shit.
So
Tell me who
be
your
looking out for
parents
those
are.
cops.
All right, I will.
Get out of our
I'll be
neighborhood.
looking
You're
at those
supposed to be
cops.
sheltered in place. Go ahead, put me on social media. You're a little pup. Seriously? And seriously, I called the cops. I can't. What
Wow,
okay.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
Some 911 centers have seen a spike in calls from people reporting others for violating executive orders and guidelines on social distancing. But As 9 and 10's Bill Freilich reports, not every call is an emergency. He continues our team coronavirus coverage.
911 centers are busy taking calls, but not for the usual reasons. That even happens with small groups. Take this report of a crew working on a lawn for the second day in a row. It turned out to be a brother and sister working in the yard.
What does opening up look like? Which activities have, like schools, have such benefit and can be done in a way that the risk of transmission is very low?
Yeah.
And which activities, like mass gatherings, may be, in a certain sense, more optional. And so until you're widely vaccinated, those may not come back at all.
With nice weather and some good surf, many people left their house today to go to the beach. Here's what Sandy Beach Park looked like earlier this afternoon. Now, beach parks across the state remain closed, and while you can conduct ocean activities in the ocean and work out on a beach if you'd like, things like sunbathing can get you in trouble. And as Nikki Schenfeld finds out, some police officers aren't giving out warnings anymore.
Some people are still confused about what is and what is not allowed at the beach. People are still coming out to enjoy it, and those that are having to pay a hefty price. More and more people are now getting cited for hanging out at the beach. On Maui, officers issuing citations to people laying out at Napili Bay. MPD also sharing this photo of officers getting ready to let beachgoers know they have to go. Police statewide said they spent the last week warning people of the new rules. Once your feet touch the sand, you must be exercising, walking or running, or walking towards the ocean for an ocean activity like surfing. What's not allowed is sunbathing, setting up a towel, chair, or umbrella, reading a book, or sitting on the beach. But this was Lanikai today, and some residents say they are fed up.
It's being ignored over here. All of us are staying, the most we do is walk or swim or canoe paddle or fish, and they're not doing the 6 feet separation. I think they're being very selfish, and they're putting all of our lives at stake.
KPD tells me they issued 3 citations on Friday to people who were sunbathing and hanging out at the beach. Fines for violating the stay-at-home order are up to $5,000 or 1 year in jail. Anyone cited for violating the stay-at-home order will also have to appear in court and explain to a judge their reasoning for being out during an emergency proclamation.
California is granting early release to 3,500 inmates in an effort to reduce crowding.
Fines for violating the stay-at-home order are up to $5,000 or 1 year in jail.
California is granting early release to 3,500 inmates in an effort to reduce crowding.
Fines for violating the stay-at-home order are up to $5,000 or 1 year in jail.
Despite a safer at-home order, this live-stream video of a Tampa, Florida church service has ignited outrage, showing a crowded sanctuary. The church saying they should be considered an essential service.
People have gone totally crazy. As the president said, he wants to get everybody back worshiping God come Easter Sunday. That needs to happen.
President Trump has now changed that timeline, and that pastor now arrested for failing to follow the stay-at-home order in his county.
His reckless disregard for human life put hundreds of people in his congregation at risk, and thousands of residents who may interact with them this week in danger.
And in Louisiana, despite a ban on large gatherings and a warning from the governor about their coronavirus cases quickly rising, hundreds of parishioners came to a church outside Baton Rouge, angering neighbors.
Y'all need to shut that church down!
Also, this street parade was held Saturday in New Orleans. The mayor telling CNN overnight it won't happen again.
Our musician community, our cultural bearers have stepped up and said, hey, no more in the city of New Orleans. This is very serious here, and our people are dying.
Pro-life advocates are fighting back after being cited by police for prayerfully gathering outside abortion mills in Michigan and North Carolina, saying shelter-in-place laws don't apply to them. 3 men who were praying outside the Scottsdale Women's Center last week in Detroit were given a citation by police and told they were violating the governor's stay-at-home order.
Today I'm issuing a stay home, stay safe executive order.
Now they're suing Michigan's pro-abortion governor Gretchen Whitmer and the city of Detroit, challenging the constitutionality of the governor's shelter-in-place order, criminalizing the free speech activity of peaceful pro-life protesters. Pro-lifers in North Carolina are suing in federal court against Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughn when 4 were arrested last week, with police claiming they were in violation of state and county stay-at-home orders as well.
Here in southern New England, some residents are concerned about people from New York coming here and potentially spreading the virus.
And starting tomorrow, Governor Gina Raimondo has ordered the National Guard to go door-to-door in coastal communities looking for people from New York. And today, state troopers began pulling drivers over if they have New York license plates. Eyewitness News reporter Rob Nesbitt spoke with one of those drivers. He's here now with the new details.
A mandatory checkpoint has been set up here on Interstate 95 in Hopkinton, where all drivers from New York are required to stop and register themselves with the National Guard if they plan on staying in Rhode Island. As you drive into Rhode Island from Connecticut on Interstate 95, you'll read this traffic sign telling New Yorkers to stop.
I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
Tara Copey drove up from Staten Island to pick up a new puppy for her family. She was given a packet by the National Guard,
That 14-day rule.
saying that New Yorkers are required to quarantine for 14 days if they plan on staying in the Ocean State.
Last week, Governor Greg Abbott executive order went into effect, which required folks traveling into Texas by road from Louisiana to self-quarantine. However, today is the first day that troopers are actually stopping drivers and forcing them to fill out paperwork indicating where they are heading to. Drivers I spoke with said it's been a headache dealing with these changes, but they understand.
I think it's great that they're trying to protect Texans. Since I am a Texan, I'm coming back home, so I think it's great that they're testing and you'll know for sure.
Troopers are allowing those with commercial traffic and semi-trucks to bypass this checkpoint. Failure to comply with this order could result in jail time.
California is granting early release to 3,500 inmates in an effort to reduce crowding.